So, Cordelia, thanks for being on our podcast today. We really appreciate you being here and being willing to chat with us. So, we know at the Hub that you are the Dean of the Nutrition Program, correct me if I'm wrong, at Pacific Rim College, correct?
Right. Yeah, you got it.
Cool. So I just wanted to start off with you kind of explaining who you are and how you got there through your nutrition practice.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, great question. Thanks so much for having me on. I feel that my journey towards holistic nutrition was one that a few practitioners feel, and that is going through your own personal health struggles and not necessarily finding the support that you want or feel is necessary based on what you're experiencing. So my upbringing was, I was the sick kid. I had stomach aches all the time. I was in and out of the doctors, in and out of hospitals, always looking for something really major and severe. Thankfully, it was not. However, it took me moving to the UK and having a bit of a flare up where a doctor for the very first time said, what are you eating? And at that point, I thought it was absolutely ludicrous. I was like, what do you mean? What am I eating? However, when you are feeling so terrible, you get to that point where you'll just try anything. So he made some recommendations. He specifically, I'll never forget, called out wheat. And I was like, you're insane. No way.
Yeah, no way am I giving up my sausage. Like, that's not happening.
No, like bread and pasta, like, no, like I was addicted to it. And yeah, fair play enough. It's the immune response that was getting my heart rate up. And of course it felt good to me. But at that point, I removed it for 30 days, kind of like had this veil lift off of my head in terms of clarity and ability to control mood and bloating for me. So just so many things improved. And that was really the start of me of having that awareness between what I'm consuming, what I'm eating, and how I'm feeling. So that was in my early 20s in the UK. When I moved back to Canada, I was still looking at nutrition and healthcare for myself, but not as a profession. So my early career was in event management and I loved that. However, as I started to feel better, there was just an uptick in friends and family asking me what I was doing. And from the very beginning, I was always acutely aware of what works for me may work for you, however, it may not. So that sort of led me to seek, post-secondary education that would provide me with a basis, a foundation of what holistic nutrition is and learning those fundamental pieces so that I could help people on their path based on where they are and their unique health needs. So kind of made that transition out of events and then into the holistic nutrition arena, and been in this industry for 6 years now, and originally was born and raised in Calgary and always wanted to move to the West Coast. I mean, who doesn't? It's gorgeous.
Maybe in Calgary, sorry, Calgary folks, but
love Calgary. Yeah. Don't love the 8-month winters necessarily.
Yeah, sure.
So came to the West Coast and really started to just dig in here and network and communicate with people. And at that time, I had no idea that Pacific Rim College even existed. So it was them reaching out to me through various channels of me just starting to do some public speaking at local health conferences and events. And they reached out to me to be an instructor in their clinic in some of their classes. And I thought, oh, this sounds really cool. I didn't even know there was a school of holistic nutrition here. Like, what is PRC? Came down to the campus, which is in beautiful Market Square, which is in right smack dab, right downtown Victoria, which I have been so familiar with because when I was growing up and we came out here, one of the best toy stores ever was in Market Square. So I was really familiar with this space, but yet had no idea that there was a college on the top floor.
Right.
So came in, saw the program, sat in some of the clinics, saw everything that was going on here and thought, this is really, really cool. I'd love to be involved and be a part of this. So started off with clinics, and then it was the opportunity presented itself to be the assistant dean, which initially I thought, oh, who am I to do that? But I thought, well, actually, like, this is great. I've always, regardless of the industry, really kind of positioned myself to be a leader and just help bring people together and rely on everybody's knowledge and expertise to make whatever project or we're working on the best. And I saw that this was happening here. So accepted that position and then And, eventually that flowed into be the dean for the School of Holistic Nutrition. So I oversee the 3-year diploma program and the the Holistic Nutrition Certificate program. And really just every semester and every year, we're just looking to, make it better and better and just bring the most relevant information to our students, because as you're very well aware of, Lynn, I mean, if you're choosing to be a holistic nutritionist, you're choosing to work in an industry that is ever evolving.
Ever changing, ever evolving. I mean, not only in the schools, but with ourselves too, right? Like you think you got it and then you're throwing something else and
then you're quickly humbled and then you've got some more information. So yeah, and plus also as well, just being self-employed, that opportunity to come and be a part of a group and collaborate, a few times a week was also very enticing, because as someone who else is self-employed, like it's great to work from home, but oh man, I was missing that connection with other people and that collaboration. So it's a really nice balance between what I'm doing in my business and then coming to the college and really pushing it forward and just acting as a resource and just watching the students enter into this industry where skilled and happy and qualified practitioners are so desperately needed. So that's how I kind of landed at PRC, and I'm really happy that I did. It's amazing.
It's amazing. I'm going to touch on this later, but we've already talked about it, where your nutrition certification can take you. Like you never know. And I think for me, anyways, personally, when I got into nutrition, I didn't know where it was going to take me. And I thought I wanted to do consulting, but I didn't know for sure. So I'm going to touch on that again, because I want to talk about what we did earlier before our call. But just before we dive into like your thoughts on that, I just wanted to find out more about PRC, Pacific Rim College, for those of you who haven't followed yet. Can you tell me a little bit more about the nutrition program that is offered there, and what students can expect from it, for instance?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So at Pacific Rim College, we offer the most comprehensive in-class program in North America. So our students take, it's 132 credits and it's 2,115 hours. And so it's really diverse, and we've got core categories. We've got a little bit of influence from the Ayurvedic perspective. We have a little bit of influence from the Oriental medicine, and then also the Western herbs. We've got a core component of the biological and biomedical sciences. So that's sort of like your pathophysiology, your anatomy and physiology, Western pharmacology. And then, of course, we've got core nutrition courses, which go all about into foundations of holistic nutrition. We talk about supplements, professional cooking. Oh my gosh, we've got all the nutrients and diet therapeutics that go specifically into different diagnoses and conditions where nutrition can really be supportive. And then I think we've also got all the professional development courses. So students, whether they want to be self-employed or be employed, we really kind of get them clear on how their knowledge that they're learning here can be translated into a career. And I think especially for holistic nutrition, and I'd love your opinion on this, I feel like a lot of students, it's like you become a holistic nutritionist and then you have to have a business. And I think it's like that's a way different skill set. And it's really important for me to communicate to students that if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's absolutely an avenue that you can take. However, there exist so many opportunities outside of being an entrepreneur that don't feel that, well, I'm a holistic nutritionist, I have to have a business, I have to start my own company. Like, no, you don't. There's so many organizations and companies and individuals that you can work with and be employed that you needn't do that. You don't have to feel like that's the opportunity for it. The other big differentiator for the program is our clinic. So the students take about 360 hours of clinic. So starting in their first year, where really they're just sitting in a room with a qualified nutritionist, one of our professional instructors, and they're watching an intake happen. And they're just sitting back, and then the instructor, once the patient has left the room, they're walking through, okay, the patient came in with this concern, here's some recommendations, what are you thinking of? What's kind of bubbling to the surface for you after this conversation? Just to get them familiar with how an intake is done. And we have a variety of instructors that lead the clinics, just to enforce the fact that, yes, there's certain information that you need to retrieve from your patient. However, the way in which you do that is going to be completely dependent on you, and don't try to follow a formula. Really just identify the data or the information that you need, and then create a flow that's most comfortable for you and honors who you are, so that you can be the most authentic version of yourself when you're meeting with anybody. Because as you know, like, that's the biggest thing for holistic nutrition. We're talking about a very intimate subject. And so it's really just having that ability to connect with someone, just to allow them to just sort of tell their story. And then you just you pull out what you need and then direct the questioning so that you get all that information that will in turn influence your ability to make the most perfect recommendations for where that person is at that moment. So yeah, so year one, just kind of getting with the flow of it. In year two, that's when they start to sit in the seat and lead the patient intake. However, the instructor is always there to support them. So if they're not sure the next question, or they're just not too sure where to direct it, the instructor will jump in and just really kind of, handhold them really to
guide them through it.
Yeah, and everybody is always really supportive, and other students will act in. So it's never like they're in the seat leading it. However, they're not alone in that consultation. And then it goes to the third year, which is the independent clinic. So at that point, the students are in the room with the patient, leading the consultation, and then they come out of the room and give a debrief to the instructor in terms of, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so came in, and, this is what they're, I always get the students to identify, like, what is their pain point? What are they coming in for? Because we need to serve that, regardless of if we're thinking like, oh, we should do this, this, and this. Like, no, honor what they came in for. Mm-hmm. And then, over that time where you build the relationship, that's when you can say, let's look at this, and this is how this is going to support your main goal. Yeah. So yeah, they lead the consultation, come out with the instructor, say, this is what they came in for, these are the recommendations that I'd like to make. Instructor can review it, make sure it's within scope, sign off on it, and then the student goes back in. And the beauty about the clinic is it provides the students the opportunity to learn the knowledge in class, and then understand, how do you actually apply that to a human being? Yeah. And how do you make that stick? And then also it gives them the opportunity to see the patient again and again who's making these changes, or what are they struggling with, what are their successes, and to see their health improve over time, just to give them the confidence of, this does work. Of course we know that, but it's not as so simple as, eat your water, get to your sleep. Like, what are the barriers that people are experiencing? How can we identify them, take them down, and then make those healthy recommendations that are actually going to bring that person closer to the state of health that they desire? So yes, having that ability to actually talk to a human being and see what those concerns are, those fears are, but also what those successes are, really provides the students with the confidence to do that in their own business. And then likewise, the other beautiful thing is, I've had students who have completed the clinic and been, so grateful for that opportunity, but they come out of it and go, I love holistic nutrition. I love the industry. However, working in a one-on-one capacity is not how I'm going to support it. And it's like, great. That's really good to know before you force yourself into working at a health clinic or starting your own business exclusively for one-on-ones, right? Like, if you know,
exactly. Yeah. I did the same thing, right? Like, I mean, if I had that in school, and I'm not saying like I couldn't have figured it out, and that going and creating your business is the wrong thing to do, obviously. But I wish I had a safe space to try these things out and see if I liked it. Maybe the process is great and it's refined and it works and all of these things. But when you don't have a safe space, in a sense, like, a financially secure spot, like you're getting coaching, you're getting, you're understanding human psychology in there too. And when I started out, it was really on my own terms and on my own time, and that made it really hard to what's the word I'm looking for, figure out what I wanted to do, because I thought that's what I had to do. And if I had the space to figure it out before I had graduated, I have taken a completely different turn. I mean, I love coaching, but I don't love nutrition coaching.
Exactly. Right.
You know, so teaching and leading are my passions, and I learned that through instructing at CSNN. But yeah, it took me down a 1.5 year path of something that I probably could have avoided if I had had that opportunity beforehand, or if I had had a mentor. I think that would be another way for people who come out of, say, like another school that doesn't offer a clinic, to have a mentor and to have somebody kind of coach you through these things to see if it's even going to be right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like, there's so many different ways, like there's so many great programs that it's just that even when I think of when I completed my program, I just, the case studies, I mean, I was doing those with family and friends. Like that's not, that's not the same as a general public, right? So it was
you
really
know that person, and you know their blockages usually, you know their struggles and their stresses, and that was the biggest thing for me too, is like stepping
and
out.
you naturally have that ease of communication where when you're charging someone and you don't necessarily feel confident in that, it's going to take away from the brilliance that you have, because you're going to get caught up in, am I asking the right questions? Am I doing this right? I don't know. And you're going to kind of feel a bit of that, imposter syndrome, which is fair enough because you've never done it.
Feel it.
Right? Oh, that never goes away, right? Like that's always.
I step into the classroom to teach. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, why am I here? Who trusted me with this?
Totally. But yeah, leading those one-on-ones, if you can have that exposure to general public who's not a family or not a friend, it allows you that space and that opportunity to really understand, like, okay, how do I want to approach this person and what's the best way to support them? And then, if you can do that in an environment with your peers in terms of other students and then your instructor who are all rooting for you, it can give that momentum and that positivity for you to just go forth and do it, even if you're a naturally shy person. It's that confidence and that support. And I mean, and it's school. This is where if you're gonna have questions or unsure how to do something, this is where you want to do it, because that's what school is for. You're not expected to know how to do everything right away. That's why you have levels and you go through year 1, year 2, year 3, and that's why they build upon each other, right? But it was super stressful when I started doing one-on-ones. I was like, I don't want to do it. And you don't want that to be a barrier, right? To prevent you from giving the support that you have in here to whoever's sitting in front of you. So
yeah, that's something I always tell people when they ask me for coaching advice, like, how do you do it? And I was like, well, send the intake forms first, like when they're first coming out, like get them to fill out these intake forms before you go and see them. And then that way you have the information beforehand, and you can do any research that you need to. Like, say they come to you with some obscure thing and you're in the consult and they're telling you about it and you're like, I don't know what that is. This way at least you can buffer a little bit. And just, it's hard because when it's your first or second client, you still have questions, you still have concerns, and you don't know how necessarily to answer them, but that's okay. You just have to know how to handle that aspect of it.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it's always okay. I mean, like I've overseen hundreds, probably thousands of intakes at this point at the college, and then, with my own intakes, and the questions never go away, and you just need to get comfortable with it. You're always going to know a lot. But it's important to, have trusted people that you can speak to and go, I got this patient or I got this client and, I have this question about this. Like, I think that's the other thing that holistic nutritionists can put pressure on themselves for, is to know everything at all times and be able to just answer it like this. And it's like, a lot, and just trust in that, but also know that you're not expected to know everything, and you need to rely. And I always say that to the students. I'm like, the peer group that you have right now when you're going to school, there's opportunities to create businesses together. But even if you don't want to do the business, these are people that you can rely on to have these conversations when you are practicing in whatever manner you choose. So don't get caught up and don't feel like you're an island and you've got to know it all and, you can't talk to anybody about it. It's like, no, just create that network of other professionals who you can have a conversation with, and it's a two-way street, and that's really beneficial. I think that's really, really important. And so it's nice that we can kind of create some of that framework while they're in school, in terms of like the peers that are supporting you now in school can also be the peers that, you support one another upon graduation, and when you're seeing the people that you want to help. Like, that's normal. That's normal.
I don't
So
know about you, but the majority of my friends are holistic nutritionists.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, right? So, and it's important, or send text messages. Oh, what about this? Have you heard about that? And it's like, no, like this is how everyone grows, and this is how the patient and the client that you're seeing is getting the best of you. It's not just based on what you know alone. It's based on your ability to curate those connections who know just as much, but in different areas, so that you can continually teach each other and learn from each other. Like that never stops. So
No, for sure. I totally agree with you on the learning aspect. I mean, that's the best part about it, I think. So you guys have the 3-year program, and then you also told me before about the 4-month, which is like the little taste tester of Pacific Rim, right?
Yeah. So we've got the 4-month holistic nutrition certificate program. So that runs in our fall and our winter semesters. And so really there's kind of 2 avenues of people who go into the certificate program. One, the individual who's really just looking to understand some of the fundamentals of holistic nutrition and apply that in their lives for themselves and their family. And then the other individual is potentially someone who's looking at taking the 3-year diploma program, but wants to, become familiar with the college and how the classes work and the instructors. And it's also designed to be taken with people who are working full time. So it's a Thursday and Friday or afternoon evening class, which goes from 3:30 to 6:30, and then it's all day Saturday and Sunday. Now the benefit is we have a lot of people who matriculate into the diploma program from the certificate program, and we've got courses embedded. So it's not like you'd be taking, oh, you took the certificate, now you're in the diploma, oh, you don't have anything. It's like, no, there's courses that are on the diploma checklist that are embedded in the certificate program, so that if you do matriculate, you've already got a semester in, for lack of better words. So you're already making progress towards satisfying the requirements on the checklist. And the 4-month, again, it's not practitioner, like you're not a professional holistic nutritionist, no way. This is personal use. And again, checking to see if the college is a good fit for you before you invest in, particularly a 3-year program or maybe a 5-year program. If you're looking to do a dual diploma, a very popular dual diploma is holistic nutrition and herbal medicine. They go so beautifully together. So that's a 5-year program. So, and a lot of students that we have here are international. So before they decide to come to Victoria and commit and do all that, it's really like, well, make sure that you're making the correct decision for yourself. And we want to be able to support that option. So the certificate is really nice for a variety of different reasons, whether it's just for personal or I'm looking at doing this professionally. I just want to start with this one while I'm working. So I don't have to, quit my job and then dedicate all my time to my studies. So yeah, it's nice to have options.
One question, and I'm just going to be like a student sitting in front of you. Do you guys accept student loans?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
So our admissions department are wonderful. There's an amazing team here. So any support you need, there's so much support. But our admissions department primarily is the point of contact for any students who are looking for student loans. And we'll also point you in the direction, if you are coming from the UK or Mexico or the States, like what do you need to be able to study here for the length of your program, and we'll certainly point you in the right direction to the forms, and then works with Student Aid BC to ensure that you're getting the funding that you need so you can come to school here, because we are an accredited private college, so we absolutely have student funding available.
Awesome, that's good to know. I wish I had known that.
Yeah. I know, it's good to know. But
what are you doing?
After you're like, oh, darn it, I didn't know about that.
The Ayurveda / acupuncture has always been on my list, but Switzerland's not quite there yet. So the move over here is kind of dampening that, and I'll just look at other things, I guess.
Yeah.
So you guys have a few online classes that you offer to not only holistic nutritionists, but the public, right?
Yes, absolutely. So the Pacific Rim College, our physical campus is Market Square in Victoria. However, last year, so 2018, the college sort of expanded its offerings to PRCO, which just stands for Pacific Rim College Online. And basically, it's just a whole bunch of workshops. We've had a lot of amazing in-person workshop presenters here. And so PRCO is capturing some of those individuals and also just offering other courses. So for example, for the Holistic Nutrition Diploma program, the students are required to get some nutrition electives and some various electives. Now, the nutrition electives, they can be satisfied in sort of one of three ways. We have weekend workshops where a guest instructor will come in and they'll lead a topic Saturday and Sunday, all day, 9 to 5, 9 to 5:30. This is where we're really fortunate. We get some really amazing speakers. We've had Tom Malter, the co-author of the Elimination Diet book. We've had Sally Fallon of the Weston A. Price Foundation. We've had Dr. Tom O'Brien come in and talk about gluten and gut health. Like we've had, oh my gosh, we've had Joel Salatin here. We've had really, really amazing presenters. Yeah, they're great, and they're so generous with their time and expertise because they're really interested in supporting the next generation of holistic healthcare practitioners. So we're really fortunate to get them. So the PRCO is just capturing some of those presenters and then providing the students to take that for electives so they can do the weekend workshops. There's also classes that I embed in the schedule. So for example, with our semester coming up, a typical class is 45 hours. So it happens once a week for 15 weeks. And then we have a winter semester, which is starts in January until April. And then we have the summer semester, which is May until August. And then the fall semester, which is September to December. So for our upcoming fall semester, there's elective classes. So they're only 5 classes, so they're 15 hours to give you 1 credit. So we've got a couple of our instructors. There's nutritional benefits of wild plants. So that one's going to be in class, and it's also going to be outside, just identifying common plants that have nutritional benefits that perhaps you've always thought of as a weed. And then we've got 2 electives that kind of dovetail on each other. So we've got holistic nutrition for pregnancy. That's led by one of our instructors, who is a naturopathic doctor. And then after that, we've got another elective, which is again once a week for 5 weeks, 15 hours, 1 credit. And it's all about early childhood nutrition. So it just goes into how to introduce foods and how to be aware of allergies or sensitivities with your child and how their gut and their immune system are developing. So they can take that. So they can take the weekend workshop, one of the nutrition electives that's offered at a shortened time, 5 weeks, or they can do PRCO. So for PRCO right now, we've got an Oriental medicine course. We've got Sally Fallon up there. So we've got like 3 options where they could also take an online program and get an elective credit. And then that's just going to continue to develop and build out over time. And then everything on PRCO, if you're a student here, it says, these have been approved for, elective credits. Yeah. However, there's a lot of other different courses that the general public can take. And just like our weekend workshops that happen physically at our campus, those are always open to the general public. And for any other student who's maybe studying holistic nutrition at any other college or school, they're certainly welcome. And then same with PRCO. Our students, they know which courses they can take for elective credit. However, everything on there is also available for the general public to take. So
awesome. That's really good to know, because it's pretty hard to find continuing education credits that might pique interest for some people, right? Like it's not very often that you can find them easily and readily. So just to be able to come to the website and find a few with you guys would be pretty good for people who are part of associations who need these credits, essentially.
Absolutely. So we've got some of the courses approved for the NANP. So that's the National Association of Nutrition Professionals. We're a level 2 provider at this time. And then for CANE, which is the Canadian Association of Integrative Nutritionists.
Right.
We're getting some of them approved through them as well. And then also looking to get some approved for the CANNP, which is the professional organization based out of Ontario. So yeah, it's certainly, we're actively working with all the professional organizations to ensure that our courses are available for those people who need to satisfy those continuing education credits every year or every 2 years, depending on the organization it is, certainly.
It's really good to know. Well, thanks for sharing all those points with me. Is there anything else that you want to share about the school before we just blab for a little bit about random things?
Well, honestly, I think we've covered quite a bit. I think the other big thing that is just beautiful about Pacific Rim College is because we have not just the School of Holistic Nutrition, but we've got the School of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, and the School of Phytotherapy. There's just such richness and such a diversity in the conversations that are occurring. And that's not just because of the schools and the students, but we have some amazing instructors who have come from various parts of the globe, who are, we've got so many of our instructors have written amazing books. So it's the opportunity to be around people who are so committed and willing to learn more about not only how to help themselves, but how to help others on, a physical, a mental, a spiritual, and emotional way, that it's nice to just have your ear to be like, what's happening in the herbal world? What's happening with acupuncture and oriental medicine? Because it's that diversity of conversation that really helps to ensure that the students and the graduates are just amazing at having critical thinking skills and knowing, we're big on the health team, right? Like, we feel that everybody should have someone on their health team that talks to them about food, but it's nice to know, how does acupuncture help digestion or fertility? Oh, what about herbs for anxiety or stress? So it's nice to just know about other things that exist, so that when you're working with somebody, either, in your student clinic at PRC, or when you're, working for yourself or another company upon graduation, you're informed as to other modalities that are going to really help that person in front of you. So that's something I'm just always grateful for, is that there's so much knowledge being shared and so many stories, personal stories of success, that it just always gives you more to ponder and more to think of, in terms of, I can help from this perspective, but wow, if they were able to recruit this and this health team member, wow, these all work together so synergistically that it's nice to know about them. So so it's just the conversation. Everybody's so willing to share and just answer questions, that it's just, I'm just always grateful for that opportunity to teach and always be taught. So
I think that's a huge point, because I mean, in school, depending on where you go, you're taught about all these things: meditation, acupuncture, naturopathic medicine, etc. But I think until you hit a plateau with your nutrition, and either the client that you're working with is no longer being helped, you've kind of passed all of your points on and they're stumped. To understand the deeper points to all of these other little places that you could send them for more help to work synergistically with what you're doing is super important. For me, I guess before I got into nutrition, it was really the scientific backing of nutrition. And something that Sean and I always run into, Sean's very psychological. He likes psychology a lot, and he listens to a lot of Carl Jung and Alan Watts, and so he would talk to me about all of these guys and listen to some big head psychologists that are around, a lot of paleo people, a lot of ancestral health people, and I love all of that stuff too. But when I started digging into Eastern medicine in my own time and finding my own books that I really liked, it was really interesting to see how the science and the Eastern medicine fit together. And that was it's so fascinating to me. And I'm reading a book right now where it takes psychology and Eastern kind of chakras and spirituality and mashes them together. And so, we talk about things all the time, Sean and I can't imagine the conversations that go on in the school when you have a herbalist, a Chinese medicine doctor, and then
it's amazing. It's amazing. And I think part of the brilliance of the conversations are that we honor science and we are science-based. However, we are open to the conversations that surround energetics, because I think we've all seen, clients who, if we're looking at their logbook, it's like, you're eating all the right food, you're drinking enough water, why aren't you getting better, right? And then it's sort of there are stones that can be turned over that involve more of that that energetic side. And certainly in both my personal and professional experience with the allopathic Canadian healthcare system, they're just not brought up. They're just not considered. And there certainly is avenues for people to heal when they can make connections to their food and perhaps habits that have been formed early on in life that you just think that you're not that age anymore. Like it didn't happen. And it's like, well, we're starting to understand that, ancestral health and ancestral trauma, like, whoa, there's credence to this. So let's lean into this a little bit more, and let's just be open to the possibility, and just open to the fact that what someone needs to heal is not necessarily just occurring on a physical level. And how do we know how to work within our scope, and then make suggestions for other health team members to be brought on to really further that person. Because I think the other thing that happens when you're a new graduate, and also this just happens even if you're not a new graduate, you could be practicing for years, is that you can put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
This person's been ill for years, they've seen this in this practitioner, like, I've got to solve it. And it's like, well, you do the best you can and you help take them further. But to me, healing is dependent on having that health team and knowing what their area of expertise are and when to actively be working with them. I've got numerous people on my health team. Doesn't mean I see them all the time, right?
Yeah.
It depends on what I'm experiencing and what I'm feeling. And so that's a big part of the conversation here too, is just letting people know that the health team is the approach. And allopathic and holistic, they weave together so wonderfully. So it's not like you have to be all holistic or all allopathic, depending on where you are and what you're looking to work on at that time. It's just having that openness and just that discussion. And for me, it's also just having a health team that, regardless of where they are on that allopathic and holistic spectrum, is, for me, the one thing that's non-negotiable is they must believe in your ability to heal yourself, however that looks like for you. Because I think that people really limit their ability to overcome health struggles. And it's important for me to believe in everyone that's in front of me, and to ensure that they get the support. So
yeah, exactly. And not like, and also I think too, when you're working with different people, is like understanding too that you may be able to take this person so far, but then it stops, just like you said. Or you may sit down with a person and you're not that person to take them on the journey, right? So like allowing time and space to appreciate every person and every person's journey, and seeing where they can get to with you. That might end in the consultation, that might end in the first consultation, and you have to say, okay, you know what? I'm not the right person for you. You have to go either here or to another practitioner, because we have our own journeys. And I think that's super important when people are consulting one-on-one. And those journeys, I think, are meant to help other people on their journeys. And if they're not quite in the same space as you are, and they're not quite ready to go down the journey that you're on, I think that can really cause issues in the client
absolutely
practitioner side as well.
And it can be super stressful when you're just new, and you want to pay the bills, and you just are like, I'm going to take everybody on. And it's like, well, that's a disservice not only to the person you're working with, but it's also a disservice to yourself, because you should enjoy what you're doing all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that it's going to be easy, definitely not. But I mean, for example, if you come out of school and you love fertility, and then a gentleman comes to you with prostate issues, and you're like, I just need the client, I'm going to work on this. And it's like, well, like, there's probably another nutritionist who was like, I work in men's health, and specifically prostate health, and they're going to be the best person to be working with that. So again, that's where it circles back again into knowing who your peer group is upon graduation, so that you can become real clear on how you serve people. And then you can also become really clear on other people in your network and how they serve, so that regardless of whether you actually work with someone or not, you are still identifying yourself as an expert who's like, you know what, not me, but wow, I've got somebody who is perfectly aligned with the support that you need. Let me do an introduction for you, right? So I think, so I think that can be stressful when you first start, because you're just like, give me the clients. But it can be really tough. But it's like, you don't want all that stress and the headache of working in an area that doesn't bring you, the most joy.
Well, exactly. And I think that may be why a lot of practitioners stop practicing within the first 3 months of starting out, because they're like, I'm going to take everybody. It's going to be great. I'm going to be successful. And then they don't realize that when they're doing that, they're not filling their need out of it as well. And I don't want to say like we have to be selfish, but it's energy work. It's not,
It is
it's
important
not, we're not just dealing with food here. We're dealing with psychology, and you're putting effort into things and helping somebody kind of come through their own process. And so I think that was one of my biggest mistakes, is that I worked in a gym. The people who were giving to me from the gym weren't really interested in nutrition. Like, I had successful people when I had people who were interested. And I think that really drained me when I first started, because I would put so much creative energy into these people's plans and then have my dreams crushed because they wouldn't carry out their end of the bargain. And that psychologically really messed with me. I was like, I just want people to follow my stuff. It's so good.
You should be doing this. Why aren't you doing this?
Why aren't you? Help me.
It's so energetically draining. Like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And I think that unfortunately the holistic nutrition industry has lost a lot of great practitioners just because we weren't having enough communication in terms of, there are many ways that you can be of service. Like, you do not have to see people one-on-one. You do not have to see people at all. Maybe you're the individual who loves research. You love piling through research and you're a great writer. Support other people. Write their blog posts. Do that. Like, if you want to support the holistic nutrition industry, there are so many ways that you can do so. It's the worst if you just feel like it's got to be in a one-on-one capacity, or maybe that's just a small piece of it, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be all. I think that, having a few different streams that you can get to exercise your creativity and your knowledge in a variety of different ways is going to be really great for growth. Because I will say about one-on-ones, I mean, wow. I mean, there's not a better way to learn.
A
better way to learn and just to understand those protocols and how to help people, right? So, I mean, if you're brave enough to do the one-on-ones, you can make significant change. It can also be very frustrating at times when you're just like, okay, these are the inputs. Why isn't that output there? Like, what is happening, right? And then that's where, again, you just have to realize too, like, have a conversation with people you trust. And there might be something that you haven't thought of or you haven't been exposed to yet. So, and don't be afraid to ask for that, because it's always evolving and we're always growing, right? So it's really important to just create a really nice supportive environment for people to ask their questions. So.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my last question for you, which is one of the biggest questions I realized when I was working at CSNN Vancouver was either students coming in or thinking about coming into nutrition, asking, what can I do with my certification? What's your answer to this question?
Anything you want. Honestly, we have a lot of discussion, particularly in my clinics I oversee with the independents. We have a lot of discussion about this. So for me, it's really just about honoring and honing in on, okay, what are you most attractive to in the holistic nutrition industry? And what do you find yourself doing just personally? Like, do you love to write? Do you love to talk? Do you love to communicate in big groups? Do you like to create protocols? Like, what is it? Because we've had a lot of graduates who run successful businesses now in a variety of different countries. We've got some social media superstars who really just leverage their following to create online programs and do that. We've had students create meal plans, students who have taken the dual, herbal and nutrition, and create product lines. There's a lot of opportunity on the West Coast. There's a lot of supplement companies and health food stores. So people working in those sorts of companies. Oh gosh, we've had people liaise with restaurants to create healthy options, like keto options, smoothie options. We've had people who are great at recipe creation. A lot of graduates have linked up with other professionals who were also at the school. So, acupuncturists or herbalists to create group plans, either in person or online. Yeah, I mean, they continually astound me because they're doing so many amazing things. And I think in part of it is just, we have so many conversations about, like, if you don't see it out there, it's for you to create. So don't limit yourself, and also understand that maybe how you start in the industry is not how you're going to end. Like, respect your own evolution as you continue to learn and grow. But yeah, just if you don't see it, start it. Just do it, because yeah, there's just so many great opportunities. So yeah, I'm continually amazed and humbled by what the students are doing, and it's just, and it's all different stuff. Like, sure, a lot of them are doing a little bit of one-on-ones, but they're doing, like, having these crazy dinners and linking up with great companies to do blog posts and promotion and videos. And yeah, they're, I'm continually learning from them, and that's the beautiful thing. It's just like learning, growing. It's just like, it's a back and forth all the time. So yeah, I think as long as the students leave here knowing that there are no limitations on their potential, I think we do a really good job of having those conversations and diffusing fears and worries, and really just working through them to understand that they're not real, and understanding where those come from, and then just supporting them and saying, yeah, like, this is what you want to do it. And that's where the professional development piece of the program is really key, because they take public speaking, they take, research projects, professional writing. So they're exposed to a lot of different avenues in terms of how to relay their knowledge and their expertise out. And through those experiences, they might really enjoy the class. They might have really enjoyed the class, but be like, I'm never doing that again, which again, that's great. Everything, whether you like it or not, is going to help to take you closer to what you want to do right now. And again, be open to that changing as you change, your career will potentially also. So yeah, it's amazing to watch them grow and learn and see what they're doing. So yeah, I'm continually impressed.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, for me, I would have the exact same message as you. It's like, it doesn't matter what you start off with. Like you said, you're probably not going to end up in it. And if you come out of school and you don't want to start your own business, that's fine. Work for somebody else. Do something else that still aligns with who you are as a person, and don't let that go. Because the minute you start doing that and you're creating something for somebody else, or the authenticity is gone in it, and it's like it's totally wiped out. And so the whole reason that you even got into nutrition gets buried under all of that. And again, I think that's another point as to why people leave, like, the nutrition.
Absolutely. Well, they place expectations on themselves of what they've already seen, and they think that that's what's they have to do, and it's like, no way. Like, get rid of those expectations, and just really just honor yourself. Like, don't look at someone and be like, I've got to be like them. Like, no, like, be like you. Because when you deviate from authenticity, you're not going to get clients. So the more clear you can be in your messaging and just represent who you are, both personally, your experiences that have led you to nutrition, and then your nutrition knowledge, regardless of where that starts. I mean, we've all, taken a program somewhere, but again, you take a workshop here, you learn from here, you maybe take another course here and here and here. Like, it's continually and constantly changing, as it should be. But yeah, I always say, if you're not sure, learn and earn on somebody else's dime. Really do that before you start to, make a move. But again, don't get too comfortable, right? Because, the greatest things in life are naturally uncomfortable to begin with. So
Sean's just sneaking in behind to get his computer so he can work like a mad, crazy entrepreneur. No, I think you're right in saying, like, don't get too comfortable, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, if you had told me how I would go down my nutrition path, I would have been like, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to have my own podcast. When I told Sean, hey, we should start a podcast, he's like, that's a bad idea. Why would we do that? I'm like, why wouldn't we do that?
Why wouldn't we do that? Yeah.
It's scary, but let's do it. Like, there's just not enough information out there of people talking to other people who are within the industry, having these very candid conversations about things that maybe suck. And like, how many people tell you, oh yeah, my job sucks sometimes? Like, nobody says these things because we want to all believe that we're very happy, and the candid conversations have to happen.
Yeah. And it's just this illusion that you should be happy all the time, right? Like I was just thinking about this the other day, on social media, these hashtags, like some of them just drive me wild, like no bad days. I'm like, that's such BS. Like the point is to not have bad days. Of course you're going to have bad days, but it's just understanding how do you get through that bad day. Yeah. And know that tomorrow it may be a bad-ish day, but that good days will always be there. And that's the same when you're in school, when you have your business. You're going to go through the highs and you're going to go through the lows where you doubt yourself and you have what we already talked about, that imposter syndrome. And it's like, this is normal. The most successful people in the world experience this. So it does a disservice to yourself and to whatever industry you're in if you go off this guise of like everything's rosy all the time. Like that's not the point. Like that's not the point. That shouldn't be a part of the discussion, right? I mean, it's about being vulnerable, and just saying like, yeah, I had a really crappy day, but you know what? I watched myself and I didn't resort to eating the whole chocolate cake and the ice cream. And that's usually what I've done when I felt really low. Instead, like I had some broccoli and, I don't feel as bad. Right. So it's about like just having those conversations and developing those tools instead of being like, everything's great all the time. Like, no,
well, yeah,
like
you can't help your clients get through these bad days either if you don't experience them yourself. I had a client once say to me, I said something along the lines of like, oh, I went out and I ate a bunch of cake and I ate at a bunch of restaurants and yeah, I kind of let go this weekend. And she's like, aren't you supposed to be the holistic nutritionist who's like perfect all the time? And I was like, absolutely not. No, I'm not. Because if I did that, I'd go mad. Like, you can't be perfect all the time. And that means
that should never be the goal, right? And I think there's so much shame and judgment in those. And that's why I actively in a clinic environment and to my clients, hey, listen, I love burgers. Like, you better believe I'm going to have a burger and fries. Do I have it all the time? No. Is it good quality? Yes. But you know what? Yeah. The one thing that I've worked over and over again on myself is to not feel guilty about my food choices, because at the end of the day, living in Canada, I mean, we are so blessed by the selection of food that we have. That, this food bullying, that has no place. You need only be concerned with the plate that's in front of you. And if you have something that's not helpful to say, then don't say it. Because so many people are already overwhelmed by the vast food choices out there and this conflicting information and misinformation, like keto's good, keto's bad, fat's in, fat's out, blah, 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 blah. Like it's too much. So it's just, be kind to yourself, and really that's important so that everybody else can understand that. And I think that as a holistic nutritionist, I don't want to set myself up to some impossible standard. Like I hate kale, kale. I'm like, oh my God, I can't stand kale. It's so bleh. It's probably the only green that I don't like. However, it's more important for me to be relatable, because the reason that I talk about digestion, the reason that I talk about healthy habits and boundaries is because I've got a lot of personal experience with that. And so I want to be relatable in my journey so that I attract the people who can learn from me and understand that I'm continually learning. It's not about I'm perfect all the time. I drink 8 glasses of water all the time. I get quality 8 hours of sleep. Like I never have junk food. It's like, no. It's just like those things still happen, maybe not as frequently, but here's some of the tools that I utilize to get me through those times. It's not thinking that they're never going to happen. In fact, it's expecting them to happen and just knowing how to support yourself through them when they do. And so I think that's another big gift that each holistic nutritionist gives, just by being purely themselves, is just being relatable and not the absence of issues or health concerns, but just being as open. And again, some people like to be open, some people don't. I mean, that's a personal preference and a professional choice. But yeah, being relatable is key, because think about the people that you like to follow, right? There are people who have a story, who share the ups and the downs and are transparent about the journey, because Lynne, like health journey, like you gotta be
still on mine. I'm still on mine.
I'm on my health journey. Like it never, like I'm like, now I'm in my 30s. I was like, well, this is a lot different than when I was in my 20s.
I know.
Oh, this is going to be a lot different than my 40s. Like when your health journey is done, you're probably not breathing. And that's just the candid choice of it, because, we're human beings and we're living in an ever evolving world. And It's just about sharing what works and just really allowing people to determine the tools that work best for them, and giving yourself a little bit of flexibility and kindness as you ramp these new habits up. Because, you know, if health was really easy, everybody would do it. And when you start on a health journey, it's not easy, but that's where, you know, having that health team to support you and to have your back is really critical. So
Yeah, I think that's to hit it home finally, is like the health team. And I think that's taken me a very long time to realize. Like, I just started seeing an acupuncturist, and I just started seeing a psychologist, you know, and I just, I can't imagine my journey now without them, because without them, I was a mess, and with them, I'm much better. And so, yeah, realizing your own limitations, but also like potentially your clients, right? And how far they can come on their own. And it takes a lot of time, and it takes coaching, and that's really what we're
yeah,
here
that's
to
what we want to support with. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other big thing about the clinics at the college, is that it's a service to the community. All the holistic nutrition clinics for the community are at no cost.
well,
So anyone who's looking to have a holistic nutritionist but necessarily doesn't have the monetary or the funds to do so, they can come to the college and we'll support them. And that's the same with the herbal and acupuncture. Acupuncture, there's a very small fee attached, and herbal clinics, they're free to attend. However, we do have a full dispensary on site. So if one of the herbalists is going to create you maybe a tincture or a lotion, there'd be a small fee for that. But even now, we've got a community access fund if someone really needs health support and just doesn't have the means right now. So it's beneficial for the students, and it's a great community service. Just to further elaborate on that health team, because again, as you know, being born and raised in Canada, I mean, you kind of are raised just thinking that your doctor is it.
yeah,
Like, and that they have to know everything. And then when you get to this place where you're like, that is really unfair, actually, to put everything on one person, like one professional. Like, no. Like, doctors are brilliant. Like, when I've needed surgeries, like, you betcha I want a great surgeon, but gosh, with food stuff and everything else, ooh, you know,
yeah.
it's unrealistic and it's unfair to have that expectation of
Well,
someone.
especially in the situation that they're in, with time and the amount of effort that they can put into each like consultation with each client.
Don't have the time. They don't. And that's why I think that, you know, holistic nutritionists, when you see, certainly in the clinic here for the students, but also when you start your own business, is that you quite often see people break down and just get very emotional, because chances are you're asking
resort, right?
well, you're asking questions that have never been asked before, and you're providing them the time and space to actually,
Talk about it.
because you want to know, like, what was your childhood like? When did this start to happen? When did you start to feel like that? And you're starting to create an area where they can maybe make some connections that they've never been provided the opportunity or the time to think about before. And that's why food is such an intimate topic that sometimes people don't even realize, right? Until you're in there and someone's like, how are your bowel movements? How is this? How is that? And you're like, what?
We didn't make it through the conversation without talking about food.
I know, we have to, right?
We
gotta pick it up. Absolutely.
Had to happen. Yeah, and I think the clinic, in the sense that it's a community service and it's free for people to attend, not only like is a community service helping people, but also brings the industry forward too, and helping people understand what it is that we do and how we can work with people as well, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Totally agree with you.
Well, I'm sure you do, as you should. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to our conversation, or anything that you thought of that you're like, hey, I should say this?
No, you know what? Not really. I think you asked great questions and we covered a lot of ground. For anyone listening, I mean, feel free to just go to the Pacific Rim College website. You can learn about the in-class and then also the online options. I'm certainly on that website, so you can look me up if you have any questions about the program or just anything about the industry at all. Feel free to just reach out, and I'm happy to help you or in any way that I can, or connect you to the resource that'll provide you with the answers that you're looking for. So yeah.
Perfect. Do you want to just say what the website is, just in case?
Yeah, it's pacificrimcollege.com.
Perfect.
Or .ca. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining me today. It was fun to talk to you. I love talking to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk more about the college and just what we've got going over here on the West Coast. So thank you.
It's exciting to know that somebody's holding the fort while I'm over here.
Absolutely. I got it.
Yeah, you got it all on you.
No, not all on me, but
no. Kidding. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks.